Well, now that you've seen the only proper way to take your guitar strings off, I want to welcome you to the second episode of my Telethrasher series, the series where I take a DIY build kit guitar and turn it into my ultimate metal weapon. Now, what I have here is a TheFretWire TL Deluxe Tele kit here, and in the first episode, if you haven't seen it, I took it and built it up just completely stock to see how it plays and get some sound clips and everything, and overall I was pretty impressed with it. Well, with this episode, I'm going to take it apart so that I can start to do the finishing work and make modifications and install the things that I want to make it my own personal guitar here. And in doing so, I wanted to share some tips and tricks that I learned along the way of building this that will help you out if you decide to pick up one of these TheFretWire TL Deluxe kit guitars and just save you a few headaches here and there. The first tip, or the first thing, really isn't a tip or a trick, but it's just a little bit of knowledge I wanted to shed on you, and that is when you open this up and you open the assembly instructions, they're kind of to be honest with you, and they tell you to go to their website and click on the installation or assembly video, and you look through and there just isn't anything for their TL Deluxe kit. Now, that's not to say there isn't a video that they suggest, but it's just not labeled that way. And so what you're going to do, and I'm going to link it up here in this box and in the description down here, but you're going to click on like one of the first videos there, and it is for a Les Paul kit, and it's by Fred Yen, and he does a really good job of explaining how to wire this up. So I'm not going to worry about going step by step how to do it, because that video already exists and it's really great. So with that being said, I think it's time to take this apart, and I'll show you the things that you can do to make this build a little bit easier. There's literally just a couple things, otherwise it was super easy to build. Well, anyway, let's get to that. All right, got the guitar on a work stand here. Let's just start taking it apart. All right, and so now that can come off. So from there, let's talk about what can be done to make this a little easier. Suppose we should take this off too. Hey, look at that thing. So that brings me to tip number one right here. The actual tip number one. For the love of God, when you're installing this, don't forget this. That right there is your ground wire. It goes under the bridge, and it's going to come through and pop in right here. So you want to make sure that you get that wire pushed through. Unlike me, which led to a lot of noise and a lot of annoyances. So tip number one, get that ground wire through. Tip number two here is, you try to open this, and see I don't have a lot to mess with here. Trying to flip this over is a real pain. When you were wiring this up, you're given some cables to go from the toggle switch down to the pots, and you're going to need to use that full length. What I would actually do is just go down to your hardware store, electronic store, whatever, and buy more of this wiring so you can have extra length. Once you have that, you'll have a lot more room to be able to move this pick guard around when you're adjusting and setting everything up, especially if you have the neck in place or the bridge in place and you're trying to flip it over. So it's just such a pain to get it done without scratching things up on the pick guard itself. You can see that just in flipping it over, these came off. So that's tip number two right there. And that's basically where you can leave it off for good tips, is just long wire. Make sure you get that ground wire. You know, pretty simple stuff. But there's one way that you can actually just make this whole build a lot easier, and let's get to that one now. Okay, we're up in the garage now for this next bit here. And when we're looking at the guitar, all the wiring has to go through these little holes here and here and just run through those holes from the toggle switch down to the pickups, down to the controls. Well, if those holes were a little bit easier to manage, you'd have an easier time with this guitar. So all we're going to do here, just kind of generally line up where those holes come in and out and mark it up. Now what we're going to do is take a router and we're going to route those out. So instead of having to feed wire through, we can completely wire up the pickups and the control center and everything and the toggle switch on the pick guard and then place it instead of having to do flips or anything like that. And it'll just make it less of a headache to do this. So let's route these out and see how it goes. Okay, I have it all set up and clamped down, router plugged in. Let me know if I'm doing some unsafe shit. I'm probably doing some unsafe shit, but let's go for it. Okay, it looks like I need to get the depth a little deeper because right here I didn't even get into the hole, nor on this one. So make that adjustment and recut. What I'm about to do right now has nothing to do with building this, it's something to do with my mods. So it's not anything you need to worry about doing. A little 1/2 inch bit here, right in the center of the control cavity. Are we through yet? No, yep. Flip it over. You'll see what that's all about and what that's for in some future videos. Fuck yeah. Jeez, I'm all covered in sawdust now and got my sweet Rigs of Death Metal shirt all dirty. And I guess that this is my official Telethrasher build shirt now because I wore it in the first video and now this one, so I might as well keep wearing it in all the videos. And if you haven't heard of Rigs of Death Metal, it's pretty cool shit. It's just a really sweet social media outlet where they just talk about death metal bands and musicians and their rigs, their guitars, everything they use to play. They have like live interviews with them and everything. It's really sweet. And if you want to get one of their shirts, they have a few designs. You can just check them out on Instagram. They have a link to their store there. And yeah, this isn't a sponsored video, you know, hashtag not sponsored, all that good stuff. But I just think that you know, it's a cool ass page run by a really cool dude. And why the hell wouldn't I want to support that? So yeah, Rigs of Death Metal. So yeah, just to summarize everything, this is a pretty simple guitar kit to build by TheFretWire. I'm really stoked on it. There's just a few things you can do to save yourself a headache or two along the way. And one of them is just finding that assembly video by Fred Yen. Again, it's linked in my description there. And it covers everything really well and makes it a super simple install. The other thing is that the wiring just isn't quite long enough in my opinion. So if you're gonna use the pre-drilled holes, then go ahead and pick yourself up some longer wire just to make it an easier build. Don't forget to run the ground wire like I did. Just save yourself that headache. It's such a simple thing, but it's so easy to miss. Go figure, I did. And lastly, if you've got the tools, I would definitely suggest routing it like I did. So then you can just wire up all the components on the pick guard. And then once you're done, you can literally just place it on and save yourself a lot of headache that way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you out in some little way. You know, if it helped you out even a little bit, then it was totally worth making for you. I am super excited to keep working on this. I've got some imperfections to get out of this now from the router base, so be careful if you do route it. And the next step on this is I'm gonna install some binding, and that'll be the next video. So hope you check that out. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Now let's cue some metal music.